We greatly respect Tom. He was retired chief of natural resources for many years at Cleveland Metro Parks. But he says many people don't realize or perhaps ignore that while it's true that wolves and cougars were significant predators in this part of the United States, the most important historic predators of both turkey and deer were humans. Hunting, in reality, is an action that restores a natural predator to the park district. So, thank you, Tom Stanley, for that bit of information too. And then we, again, the hunting program here at the park district is pretty dynamic. It's every year. The rangers, the administration department, they run the program, the nuts and bolts of that, and the logistics of it all. And I'm sure Dennis could add some things if you have questions about the details of the hunting program. In my department, we make annual recommendations on what areas we see that need to be hunted. We have a list of parks that we recommend. Again, of course, we see deer browse in all our parks. Some properties are more impacted than others, and we develop these priority areas.
Now, how do we communicate to the public as to what parks we deem necessary for culling?
Well, like I said, I do write a document every year. I produce a document and give that to John and Dennis, and then from there they take it. And I'm not sure how they communicate with the public about each park.
What we do, Pat, is typically we work with Cheryl Hackridge, and we put it out on social media. You can put it out in the newspaper, things of that nature, so that people know that we will be hunting a specific location. When we do hunt that specific location, there's always a ranger there. The park is closed for how long we've decided to hunt that particular. We put barricades up. We notify typically the neighbors via just a little insert in their mailbox that will be hunting that specific piece of property. So,
do we look at ages of people that can hunt? And
yes. So we look at, and again, we're not reinventing the wheel. We look at ODNR and what is already set forth in their rules and regulations. So when we look at, say, a youth hunt, we stay within those parameters that's set forth by the state.
okay.
So, whether that is a young person who's being accompanied by their parent or an adult, that it will be hunting on the property as well.
Okay.
And then we break that down.
Great. Okay. Another part of this program that we have here is natural resources is dealing with pesky critters too sometimes. Now, in general, I love this animal that creates this habitat. This is out at Observatory Park. This is a beaver wetland system. Beautiful. It's been there for years. And very few, if any. I don't see any invasive plants here. We've been I check it every year, make sure we don't have any major problems starting here. But beaver creates some of the most fantastic wetlands. And Howard and I had a nice conversation about some otters and comeback critters. Talk about deer. There's the otters now that we see a lot and in our parks and around Geauga County. But this is fantastic habitat for those critters too. But occasionally, unfortunately, beavers can cause trouble when they start to damage or flood roadways or damage park infrastructure. And so we have had a trapping program here at the Park District for a number of years as well. Again, similar to the deer recommendations, I make annual recommendations. We are obviously looking at our parks, our ponds, our lakes every year, our wetlands, and noting any potential issues or damage. We talk regularly with a lot of the townships and folks that if their roadways are flooding, if culvert pipes are getting blocked up. I just had to talk last week to Burton, the road department down there, with a big culvert pipe that's having some issues there. But we constantly have issues just south of here, Chardon. Woody Brook Road is an issue with flooding and undersized culverts and beaver. And there's been issues for years there. But, and the other, so then we have to deal with beaver. Unfortunately, we do have to trap those animals. We have a trapping program, again, under the guise of Ohio Division of Wildlife and theirs, rules and regs. But we also have a raccoon management program we started in 2011, and that is specifically for rare species management, the spotted turtle program in a park that we have those animals. Okay, well, here's my document, nuisance guidelines that we come up with. But this is actually a kind of a protocol that I thought in 2012, 13, that we come up with step-by-step kind of how we go about identifying problems and solving them too in-house here. Again, if there are threats to human safety, park infrastructure, or the balance of the ecology of the park district, then we deem it necessary that we have to do something about it. Generally, we try to do it in-house with our staff. We're lucky we do have some trapping folks in-house in the department that I run natural resource management, so lucky there. We also have we use private trappers in the county as well. Make use of those trapping seasons, and that's a good thing too.
Now, how do we communicate trapping, and how do we make sure that there's no injuries or?
I would
So when we look at specific properties for trapping, one of the things that I look at is again, typical for a person who is trapping for fur when we're using a private or a citizen to trap. These are usually going to be in the later parts, January and February. But I look at the traffic, how much people are in that particular area. In the same way with people's, animals, dogs specifically that are walking. So we look at the recommendation that Paul gives, specifics. If he's having, a problem with beaver in that particular, then we look to see if it's practical. Do we have to keep it in-house? Do we need to close down a particular, walkway to keep people out in the area until we're able to take care of the problem? So there's many layers to that if we are. But a lot of the trapping, as Paul was saying, might be in areas that aren't typically visited.
Okay.
And because it's later in the year, my concern as far as park and public safety, it certainly drops.
Yeah, we're pretty careful about
Yes.
obviously where we're at and pretty selective.
Yeah.
If it's close by trail, anything like that, we'll either close it or we will just be very diligent about getting into that park and checking those traps even at when the sun comes up and get there before folks are really even in the park.
So a lot of times they're trapping through the ice. So that, whether they're using a pole style trap or they're actually, if they're going agriculture. So a lot of the areas are very low impact as far as safety concerns. But I look at that very heavily as to how that would affect our visitors.
Yeah, and I mean, we do try other alternative methods too. We have some structures up that we try to fool beaver with, beaver baffles and different things. Some of them work for a while, but beaver are so smart. Oh my gosh. So they often will figure ways out of plugging things up and getting around things and causing trouble, but in general, they're great animals to have. We encourage them in the park district, but occasionally we have to do some things with them to solve problems. And that's all part of wildlife management and being active and proactive about things here in the park district. That's pretty much the basics of kind of hunting, trapping that I wanted to cover here. We do again follow Ohio Division of Wildlife Management and all of their rules and regs here at the park district, but then we also work closely with them on fisheries. I was just talking to them, they wanted to help stock some fish in a couple of lakes here, even this fall still. But we do a lot of fish work too in the park district, which is fun. I do want to say that I spoke with you a couple of months ago about the brook trout, right, in Ohio here, how unique it is to Ohio. It's the only place left is Geauga County. And I put in for a grant for the $1.1 million. Now it looks like, tentatively, I don't want to get too crazy, but it looks like we rank number 1 in the state for it.
Wow.
So I think we're going to, if we can work out some some of the details about it. I think John wants to talk with you folks about it today, some of the details. And we can work those out, get through that. I think we have a really neat opportunity to do something really unique and special for the Park District. Highlight the Park District, get people into Veterans Legacy. If we build a brook trout stream, and just a great educational opportunity. And so thanks for your time. And
Do we have press here today? Anybody from the newspaper?
I don't know.
Yeah, Ron.
Okay, so explain to Vaughn what the ranking is and who gets funded, because our